Holofernes' army was drawing very near. He cut the water off to make the city bend, and every hope was fading for the struggle to end. The elders lost their heart and gave a 5-day test. They said they would surrender if God gave them no rest. But Judith was a widow, both beautiful and wise, who saw the lack of courage through her faithful eyes. She called the town's leaders and spoke with words of fire. Do not test the Lord or let your spirits tire. He is the God of mercy, He is the God of power. He will not forsake us in our darkest hour. She laid aside her mourning and put on fine attire, with jewels and with perfume to kindle a desire. She prayed for God to guide her and keep her spirit strong, to save her ancient people from the tyrant's wrong. She walked out through the gates with her maid by her side, into the enemy's camp with no place to hide. The soldiers were all dazzled by her grace and her face, and brought her to the general in that wicked place. She told a clever story to catch him in a net, of how the city's sins would be their downfall. Yet the general was charmed by the words she chose to speak, not knowing she was strong while he thought she was weak. For 3 days in the camp she ate her own clean food, and prayed beneath the stars in a quiet solitude. The general planned a feast to bring her to his bed, with wine and heavy drinking to cloud his weary head. The banquet was a grand and a boisterous affair, but Holofernes drank more than any man could bear. He fell upon his couch in a deep and drunken sleep, while Judith watched and waited, a promise she would keep. She stood beside his bed and she took his heavy blade. Give me strength, O Lord, was the only prayer she made. 2 blows upon his neck and the general was gone, before the stars had faded or the coming of the dawn. She took the severed head and she put it in a bag. The pride of all Assyria began to wilt and sag. She slid past all the guards and she fled into the night, returning to her people before the morning light. Open up the gates, she cried out to the wall. The Lord has struck the giant and caused the foe to fall. They looked upon the trophy and they gave a mighty shout, as all the fear within them was quickly cast out. They hung the head of Holofernes high upon the tower, a sign of God's great justice and His saving power. When the army saw their leader had met a bloody end, there was no more courage left for them to defend. The soldiers fled in terror, they scattered far and wide, with no one left to lead them and nowhere left to hide. The men of Israel chased them and won a great prize, as the sun of victory began to surely rise. Judith led the women in a dance of holy praise, with branches in their hands and their voices all ablaze. She sang a song of triumph that echoed through the land, of how the weak had conquered by the Lord's own hand. She went back to her home, and she lived in quiet peace. Her fame and her honor would never truly cease. She would not wed another, though many came to try. A hero to her nation under the desert sky. The wealth of Holofernes was given to her hand. She dedicated all of it to God's holy command. She freed a loyal maiden, she blessed a family line, a light of pure devotion that will forever shine. So remember Judith's name and the courage that she showed when she walked into the darkness on a dangerous road. Trust not in the sword or the power of the great, for God can use a widow to change a nation.